Welcome to Nerds Out of Order. I'm Michael, and today we're going to be talking to two very different individuals who are both students. One of them is my nephew, who comes from Wellington in New Zealand. He's studying computer science, and the other is Lam, who is one of our employees at TeamScale. Both of these people have recently been students and moving more or less into the realm of real work. And we wanted to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and talk about what it's like to be a student in the 2000s and 2020s. As they keep reminding us, David and I are old and have been around for a long time. As such, our attention spans have probably expanded. But in order to keep this podcast at a time frame that millennials can digest, we're going to break this into two parts. This is part one. Welcome, James and Lam. Okay, so welcome, James. Welcome, Lam. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm good too.
Awesome. Very nervous.
Today, very nervous. Why are you nervous?
Don't be nervous. Whereabouts are you, James?
I'm in Wellington, New Zealand.
And Lam, whereabouts are you?
Oh, I'm in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam.
Wow. So we've got people from all over the world today. David, are you in Canberra today?
I'm in Canberra, all suited up, ready for the cold.
Nice. So let's, as a start, Lam, do you want to go first? Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and what you're doing now and where you've come from?
Oh yeah, sure. My name is Lam Ngo, and my last name is a little bit hard to pronounce, and I'm from Vietnam. So when I was 19, I went to university in the US, and I majored in mathematics. And I also minor in biology, and although my biology is also just my minor, I actually focus a lot on studying nature and animals. So I spend a lot of time going caving, hiking, mountain climbing, and also biking. And I also had 1 year internship at the American Museum of Natural History in New York. And in New York, I met a lot of cool people there. So
you did.
That's how I started. Yeah. New York was a really cool city. So that's when I started to get interested in technology, because I met a lot of people from a department called Centers for Technology in Biodiversity. So they use a lot of technology to do conservation and stuff. So that's when I developed an interest in the field between technology and conservation. And right now I'm just learning how to do coding and how to use technology to help with conservation and animal protection kind of thing.
That's absolutely awesome. My daughter does a lot of work in environmental tech. So she works with koalas and then works with different countries around the world. What interesting animals are you looking at working with?
I used to work with insects mostly, and so I spent a year internship at the museum working mainly with scorpion.
Oh, scorpions.
And the other kind of animals are cave animals. So what I focused back then was
James is a cave animal. I can see his cave.
Oh, really? yeah, it's not like a cave. Cave biology was what I started with, and so then I got introduced to the American Museum of Natural History, where they study scorpion that actually live in Asian caves.
Wow, how awesome is that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We went back to Laos and Vietnam a couple of times to catch the scorpions, and some of them are actually new species, so no one ever see them before.
James from New Zealand. Yeah, how do you follow working with? How do you follow working with scorpions? That's awesome. Tell us about you.
Well, I am currently studying software engineering at university in Wellington. I haven't really done anything crazy cool yet. I'm still wasn't really into tech for years. I kind of just came across it. Like I was always kind of like playing video games and stuff when I was younger, but never really cared about any of the behind the scenes stuff, like how things are made. I like to build my computers and all that cool stuff, and I heard about all the stuff that Uncle Michael had done, but never really thought too much about it until I met some mates who were just really into it, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll start thinking about it. I was always planning to join the forces.
Can we go back a bit? Uncle Michael?
Uncle Michael. I don't know if you know this. Michael is my uncle.
Now you're making me blush.
Oh, hello, Uncle Michael.
I don't know if I was meant to share this knowledge at all.
I see. He is very clever, and he's putting together a few very exciting things. So, what's the best computer you've put together?
My current one. I've spent way too much money on it last year because I had a decent one and my cat peed on it, like true story, and killed it. So I built quite a nice one together. I can list off the specs if you'd like me to. I got an i7-10700K, an RTX 3080, and that's all water cooled and everything like that. 32 gigs of RAM, so it's pretty good for some basic AI stuff that you'd be into, dear David. It does everything I need. I couldn't have put together a better computer.
What's it like being a student now? I mean, when I was a student, internet wasn't available. Google wasn't available. YouTube. There's so much more complexity in what's being taught now. I know. I mean, I studied in New Zealand. So, James, what do you think are the major things here, apart from us being old?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, are you comparing it to before COVID, or comparing it to like last century when you guys were at university and studying? But anyway,
last century when we were studying.
Last century. Well, we studied a lot of the older, like some of the older things that were probably taught when you guys were studying, because it's a lot simpler than a lot of the stuff that has been developed these days. Like some of the things, like programs, protocols, and everything are just so complex these days. It's you can't just expect a student or someone who hasn't got a background in technology or like a prior knowledge to it to understand it. So you still need to teach that older basic stuff, and then you can dive into the deepest things. But I suppose you guys never got that older, that newer complex stuff. To you, that newer complex stuff is the old stuff we're learning now.
Well, I suppose that you've got a lot. You use Google. You must use Google a lot, and you've got so many online capabilities now that we didn't have. I remember when I went through uni, I was an engineer. We had 6 computers in the whole of the university. So when AutoCAD 1 was released, it was so exciting to be able to draw a curve. Now you can just look up scientific equations on Google, and they're really there. My first operating language was Fortran. What do you work in now?
We work in C++, Java, C, and then some of our courses do whatever language we want. So it's pretty out there. We can do whatever in some classes, but they mostly teach us Java and C++, C, just to kind of give us the fundamentals so we can teach ourselves when it comes to actually learning new languages, learning how things work. I suppose that's more or less what they're teaching us, is how to learn, not necessarily teaching us the content, which brings back into that being able to just Google everything. It's so easy because, like we don't have to search through textbooks for hours on end. We can just jump on Google, and it's a skill itself, learning to Google, learning to take in information that is on the internet.
And Lam, what about you? How do you think being a student in this century differs from being a student last century?
I think right now I like it better because I'm a very lazy student, so I usually prefer skipping class, and I don't like going to school that much. I guess so. Right now it's pretty easy. Yeah, it's pretty easy for me to just skip class, not being afraid that I will miss something because mostly stuff right now can be found on the internet, and also teacher recorded stuff and they put it online too. Especially now that they started to go into online teaching a lot because of COVID. So they make online learning really interesting, and also it saved my money too because now I don't really feel like I need to go for higher education and paying all that money if I can only go to the internet and sign up for some cheaper courses online.
And a lot of the universities around the world are offering their courses for free, or some of their courses for free. So through Open University and things.
Maybe I should do that for my fourth year.
Harvard actually did a good job on online classes for free.
For free.
Either of you use TensorFlow or use virtual libraries at all?
I've used TensorFlow before. I've never dived deep into it, but I was playing around with it a couple of years ago because I thought it'd be fun to do some AI stuff in it. But and I didn't get bored. I just kind of stopped doing it. And in uni, our first year, we started doing more AI, but not with TensorFlow.
The very first autonomous car that I got to operate, I developed the code for under TensorFlow, so it was really exciting. Lam, have you used TensorFlow at all?
Oh, TensorFlow, yeah, I heard about it. I have kind of toy, I guess. It's a hardware I bought online that kind of let you play around with TensorFlow and AI for a little bit and kind of hear your voices and will do basic command.
Oh yeah, I've seen those, and you can get them through. You can get some stuff through the Google research and development area. I can't remember what that's called.
Yeah, exactly. I bought that when I was in the US, and I brought it with me back here to Vietnam, but I haven't had a chance to play with it since I got into TeamScale. It's a bit crazy.
Speaking of which, Lam, how do you find that your being a student has differed from the real life application to actually being able to use those skills? I mean, your degree in mathematics, and you've obviously done some work with scorpions and other things, but applying that in the real life is obviously very different to what you learn in university. Do you find that you're doing things differently?
Yeah, I think so. When I was in the university, the test is just if you fail the test, it's okay. You will be the only person who's responsible for that test. But when you work in real life, and there's a lot of other people that will have to be responsible when you fail, if you know what I mean. So when you don't meet the deadline, or you cannot do something for the client, then the whole company got affected, and then you have to keep remember that and try to do your work better. Because when I was in school, I just I failed the test, I take the test again. Now I cannot have that mentality anymore. It makes sense, yeah. So I have to develop and be more responsible with things I do. Other than that, I think the knowledge I learned in school when studying mathematics, it gave me a lot of ways of thinking, like logical ways of thinking. So it's really helped a lot. Yeah, it's not the knowledge itself, because I think I mostly forget all the knowledge.
It's the logic. It's the logic that
it's the logic that stays, because I don't think I have to use like equation or derivative right now in real life, but the logic is really stay.
Yeah, it's not very often someone says to you, "Okay, I need this quadratic equation solved."
Yeah, exactly.
True. So, Lam, from studying scorpions and how they're going to bite me when I'm lying in bed at night, to it's obviously something you're really passionate about. How do you see that we're going to bridge the gap between looking after scorpions and how do you see the technology? What technology do you think we'll use?
Well, I think a lot of people told me I am in a very good position to be in the middle because I understand what biologists say, and I also understand what people in the technology industry say, because they both use very specific languages. And so, what technology? Well, right now they're using a lot of drones to manage animals.
Yep.
And they also use devices with heat sensor, so they send it into cave and they sense the small animals in there, or sometimes some caves have a lot of toxic gas or toxic substance, so people cannot get into, so they send like tiny robots in there and do like scanning and all that. And they also use GPS. So we used to have a project where we make GPS for themselves and for ourselves, because back then GPS was really expensive to buy online. So we bought like little hardwares and then tinkering and put them together and kind of put the code on them so that they can just run basic GPS function. So then you can put those little GPS on turtles or small animals and track their pattern of nesting and other patterns, so you know what they do and where they will come up to shore. So it helps a lot. Those information help a lot in animal conservation, because when you know their pattern, then you know, and also that you can track their population. And those are like example of technology that you can use. But biologists, they don't have much of the time to go into the details. Usually they have a lot of...
It's more about the macro, isn't it, rather than the micro?
Yeah. So they have a lot of trouble, working on technology. And they also cannot talk to technology people because technology people don't really understand what the biologist is trying to say. It's kind of complicated.
No, it sounds really interesting. I find that stuff really interesting. Unfortunately, the only scorpion drones that I've dealt with are more stealthy and more on the battlefront. But having the ability to follow scorpions and animals into their lair and find out what they're eating and where they're moving to, that would produce immense amount of data that you'd need to be able to analyse.
Yeah. James, you've mentioned teaching to me before about things that you enjoy doing. What do you think your teachers did, and what sorts of things did they inspire you with? Like, what would you say makes a good teacher?
Well, it's funny because that's kind of how I got into tech. My teacher, or my computer science teacher at high school, was really good. Or she was like, I could only say the only word I can use for it is mental. Like, she was just really out there, just all over the place. But she was really good at teaching us. And she sat me down one day and she talked to me and she's like, do you think you should be going to the forces? Because that's where I was originally going to go. And then we talked for ages, and she pretty much ended up convincing me to do tech by telling me that there's all these cool, wonderful things you can do. And I think it's important that teachers do ask that question to their students. Like, do you think that you're going into the right career path? Like, you're good at this and you seem to enjoy this. Why don't you try it out? I think, that's just very important that teachers look at their students and see what their strengths are, see what their weaknesses are, and try and guide them in the right direction. You find a lot of teachers try, but none of them really let you try and make your own decision. You got to give them all the information you can, or the student all the information you can, but at the end of the day, let them make it. Don't just say you should do this because you are this, like you are good at all this stuff, because then they just won't be inspired and do cool things, like come into class and show cool stuff, be the cool teacher. Don't just be boring and stand in front of the class and say this is what we're learning today, and
That
you have
sounds
to make
good.
them think you're cool so that they want to be you. They want to know all the stuff you know.
I think for me the thing was, anyone who I've learnt a lot from has walked the walk. They've done their thing. They're able to demonstrate something to you rather than just telling you about it. And that's really important to me. Is when I see people who are doing things rather than just telling you that they've done things, it's really important as someone I want to learn from.
But yeah, she came from a networking background. She worked for Cisco years ago, and she was a project manager for them for a little while. But she left because of family reasons and decided that it would be better for her to teach because it fit her family better. And it kind of inspired me to, that's what I want to do. I want to go out and work, make some big bucks, and then go and teach, because I feel like I want to pass on the same as what she did to me to some other student. If I could just get one kid to just find passion in tech, then that's what I want to do. But I want to make some money first, because the housing market's crazy in New Zealand. So
The housing market's crazy everywhere.
yeah, it's true.
So if there was two things that you could say to another student that they really have to do to ensure that they can study well, what would they be, James?
Don't stress. It's like, I suppose this is going back to what Lam said. I don't want to be too direct here, but if you start to stress, your grades might start to slip as well, just because you're stressing, and you won't be thinking about your uni work or your school work. And it's just because that your mental health is just so important when it comes to taking in knowledge. If you're in a good spot, when you're happy, you'll consume so much more knowledge. And one other thing.
Yep, come on. Second one, you're on the spot now. Under pressure. Don't feel stressed.
Don't feel stressed, and do something that you're passionate about. Don't do it if you don't care, because if you don't have the passion for it, then again, you're not going to learn. Like, there's obviously some classes that you probably have to take that you don't give a sod about, but try and do something you do actually genuinely care about, because then you will learn it better, you will love it better, and you will ultimately enjoy it at the end of the day.
What about you, Lam?
Yeah, Lam, what about you? Is there anything advice you'd give to any students in the future?
I would say try to be healthy as much as you can, because some students, I think, like James said, they stress out too much and then kind of damage their mental health and also their physical health. So I say health is the most important thing to me.
I'd agree with that. Well done, Lam.
Yeah. And also everything will be okay, I guess. If you fail one test, it's okay. You can always make up for it later. So not that important.
Actually good to hear that, Lam, because I'm just going into my exam period and I'm just like, you said that earlier, and I'm like, actually, no, she's not wrong. Doesn't really matter that much.
Well, you think it's matter now, but I think later on, and you realize, it doesn't really that matter.
Like 6 months down the track, you just forget about it.
I'm just looking at James and his man cave here. He was drinking one Red Bull. There's at least another Red Bull behind him. Is that a healthy look or a non-healthy look?
It's good for me. It's good for my heart, and it's good for my liver.
Yes. What about the bad habits, James? I know you've got a few, but what would you tell people to avoid? $4 jugs on a Thursday night.
Yeah, stay off the whiskey. No,
Damn.
I would like. I feel like every student gets into it, but I'm gonna get probably like a bit of flack for it. But caffeine, stay away from caffeine. You don't need it if you just have a good sleep schedule. And like I know no one's good at it. No, like everyone will be like, "Oh, caffeine. You need like I need my morning coffee," but you don't really if you sleep.
Michael and I both drinking coffee.
Yeah, and have a don't get into a bad routine. Like don't just be lying in bed till 11 o'clock and then be like, oh, it's time to get up, and then just get up and don't do anything. Like, yeah, you need to set a good routine.
You need to have a routine.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what Lam said before. It's, be healthy, because I think your physical health and your mental health is really important, especially when you're learning so much.
100%. Or when you're pretending to learn so much.
What about you? Did you have any bad habits when you were at school?
I did.
That you want to talk about?
Well, in terms of health or in terms of
anything.
Anything. Bad habits.
Bad habit is to procrastinate a lot.
We're all good at that one, aren't we?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I remember one time I procrastinated to the point where I have to take the test in 3 hours and I haven't touched anything yet.
Whoops.
So I have like 3 hours of going through like a month of knowledge, and also I missed a whole week because I skipped class and just flew to New York and take a random vacation.
So don't go to New York because you're.
Don't take random vacations me and skip class.
Yeah.
Sometimes I regret it. Sometimes because sometimes going to class actually helps. Although I know that I can catch up later, but still it just creates unnecessary stress later.
Yeah. So
don't
Lam,
create unnecessary stress. Yeah.
Lam, if you've been in the industry as long as Michael and I have, which according to James is about several hundred years, if you've been in here that long, so let's say in 10 years, where do you think you'll be? What do you think you'll be doing?
Like if I can live for another 100 years, is that what you said?
No, let's say 10. Let's just go 10 years.
Let's just say 10.
Okay, 10. I think I would love. You mean in the technology industry? Where we
Yeah. Where do you think you'll be?
That's a good question.
Apart from in New York.
Well, I would love to go to South America. Well, South America has great nature, and they did really good job at conservation. So I would love to see how, because their countries are actually also pretty similar to Vietnam. So I'm not interested in seeing the developed country doing conservation because they have all the resources they need. But Vietnam is a developing country and economic is still their main focus. So that's why they kind of willing to sacrifice nature for the sake of developing economics.
Right.
But South American countries somehow balance those two pretty well, and they have the same economics development as Vietnam. Some countries like Brazil and Belize, Colombia, but they still do a really good job at conservation. So I just want to know how they did that, how they do that right now. Yeah.
It's a really good idea. Yeah. There's some amazing technologies going on in South America and in Africa at the moment. Blood deliveries by drone, the animal habitat pieces of work that's happening in South America.
They're tracking elephants by satellite in Africa.
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
James, what about you?
Apart from
in 10 years' time, what do you?
Apart from emptying Red Bull and making sure that beautiful hairstyle is there, what do you think? Yeah, that one. What do you think you'll be doing in 10 years?
I'll give you my sales pitch, David.
Go on.
I hope to be running a small company that is able to develop secure and safe, and hopefully free programs for people to use. I want to work with passionate people who enjoy solving difficult problems, and I suppose that's what I want to do. But if I can't do any of that, I'd still like to be developing code with just a cool team of people, like a team that you can just kind of like hang out with, go down to the pub or the bar later on after work with, have a few drinks, just kind of like de-stress, like kind of friendly, like family, not family, but no, I suppose family oriented, friendly co-workers.
So what you're saying is you want to go and work with Lam in Vietnam?
Yeah.
Sounds like it to me.
There's a job. It's a job. I need one of those.
Great to me.
Michael, do you remember 200 years ago when we were thinking like that? We just want to go out and write some code and live life and make money. But James, what sort of applications do you want to develop? What are you passionate about?
Well, that's kind of the hardest, like a hard question to answer, because coming up with ideas is like 90% of the problem when it comes to this, like, I suppose, running your business. It's coming up, like Michael said something to me the other day, because me and my friends are developing some of our own projects behind the scenes, and I've been showing Michael some of them, and he told me that you need to you need to develop like 2,000 apps or something like that before one will succeed. And it's just, I suppose this just becomes down to the idea, like if it is actually going to help people. But I'd like to just, any application that can help people in any possible way, whether it be life-saving, whether it be money-saving, whether it be any kind of thing that can make a difference. Like, it sounds cliche, but it is kind of what I'd want to do, just somehow help people, because just helping a few people would just be great. But
sounds a very good way of doing it.
We'll see what happens. I got hopes to set high, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. We hoped you enjoyed this part one of our interview with James Helena and Lam No from different parts of the world on Nerds Out of Order. We'll be back in a very short amount of time with part 2. So listen out for that, and enjoy your week. Bye now.